Good morning to my favorite first graders in the whole wide world. It's Miss Rossi here. Get ready for another day of learning, another day of guided reading. Before we start today, I want to talk about what we're going to do with your brain today, because we all know your brain is going to get bigger. So let's do our little brain model. So I want you to hold your hands like this. Pretend like this is the size of your brain. So here's your brain right here. Now, right now, your brain is this size, but once you read the book with me, and once you answer some questions with me, and once you watch your other teachers' videos today, your brain's going to get a little bit bigger. So make your brain a little bit bigger. Put it back in your head. Ooh, awesome job. We're going to grow your brain today. I cannot wait. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started remembering what it means to make an inference. We're going to start by making inferences. We're going to start by making, and remember, an inference is a guess. An inference is but we need two things to make our guesses based on the text. We need text, evidence, and schema. We need, good, and schema is what you know. Schema is, very good. Schema is what you know. Yesterday, we built some of our schema talking about Rosa Parks. Show connection if you watched yesterday how we talked about Rosa Parks and how she thought some laws were unfair. So she decided she refused to sit on the bus. So that's the book we read yesterday about Rosa Parks. Nice job. We're going to use that same schema today. We're going to use all that information that you know about Rosa Parks and about how back a long time ago, there were unfair laws for Black people and for white people. So today, we're going to talk about Martin Luther King Jr. We're going to talk about, and you all might remember that we've already talked about Martin Luther King Jr. in our classrooms. We watched a video of him marching to Washington. We watched videos of him saying a speech about how he has a dream that one day Black people and white people will be treated fairly. And you might even remember that you wrote what your dream for the world was. A lot of you wrote, I dream that there will be no violence. I dream that all kids will be nice to each other. I dream that white people and Black people will have the same opportunities. You guys did such a good job with our Martin Luther King project. Now today, we're going to read a book that's going to teach us a little bit more about Martin Luther King and why he did what he did. So that's going to be our schema. You're going to need to use lots of schema of things that you've learned from first grade today to think about Martin Luther King. All right, let's go ahead and remember our sentence stem when we're answering our inferential questions. We don't just guess the answers, we use text, evidence, and schema, and we use our sentence stem to help us guess. So let's go ahead and put your finger underneath the first word in. We're going to read all together. I want all of your voices on. We're reading all together on 2, 1, 2. In the story, I read blank, so that makes me think blank. Very nice job with your inferences. All right, my friends, today we are going to read a book called Dr. King's Memorial. It's called, very good, Dr. King's Memorial. And remember, this man right here is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we learned a little bit about him in class. And today we're going to read a little bit more and get some more information about why he did what he did. Let's go ahead and get started. I want you to first read our table of contents. Remember, our table of contents tells us all of the chapters in the book. Oh my goodness, before you pause your video, I cannot believe that my first grade scholars are reading chapter books. I'm so proud of you guys. Wow. In the beginning of the year, a lot of you couldn't read chapter books, and now we're reading table of contents. Awesome job. So proud of you. Your second grade teachers are going to be so proud. Okay, I want you to pause your video and read about the chapters that we're going to read today. Go ahead and pause your video and do that now. All right, let's go ahead and start with our first chapter, the introduction. Okay, before you read the introduction, show connection if you've heard the word introduction before. Yes, we learned about in our I Oreos. Remember, those are our opinions. We learned that that I stands for introduction. It stands for, so when you're writing a paper, you always start with an introduction. You always start with A. And just like today, our book is starting with an introduction. Okay, so I want you to pause your video and read the introduction now. Pause your video and read this page now. Friends, I also want you to read these little blue boxes. You're going to find these throughout the book. These are boxes. Oh, that was really bad. I'm going to undo that. These are boxes that have quotes quotes, which means these are words that Martin Luther King Jr. actually said. We learned that quotation is when someone is speaking. So in these boxes, you're going to see, let's see if I can make this neat. You're going to see these little marks, these quotation marks. So that's showing us that this is what someone is saying. And in our book, Martin Luther King Jr. is speaking. So I want you to pause your video and make sure you're reading the blue box and the words on the page. Go ahead and read the next chapter called The South. Pause your video and read that now. Pause your video and read this page now. Pause your video and read this page now. Let's go ahead and read the next chapter, Dr. King's Work. Pause your video and read this page now. On this page, make sure you read the blue box and the words on the page. Go ahead and pause your video and read this page now. Pause your video and read this page now. I'm wondering how many of you are showing connection to things that you already knew about Martin Luther King Jr. All right, let's keep going. Friends, pause your video and read the next chapter now. Nice endurance. Ooh, we're gonna have a text-to-text connection on this page. Okay, friends, I want you to read the words on the page and I want you to read the box at the bottom that says, do you know? Pause your video and read this whole page now. Our last chapter, friends, go ahead and pause your video and read this page now. Excellent job. Don't forget to read the blue box on this page. Pause your video and read this page now. And our last page is our glossary. Remember, our words that are bolded are words that have definitions. So on this page, we're going to find the meaning of the bolded words. So I want you to pause your video and read the glossary now. Okay, friends, I can't wait to talk with you more about Martin Luther King Jr., especially because I know that so many of you already have so much schema around Martin Luther King Jr., and there's already so many things that you know. Very nice. My first question is, what is a memorial? What is a memorial? I see in the text there's this word memorial. What is a memorial? Pause your video and answer that question now. All right, friends, I'm going to go all the way back to the glossary because I already know what a memorial is, but I want to make sure that I'm using my definitions to help me. It looks like a memorial is something that stands for the memory of a person, place, thing, or event. So, of course, right now we're reading about Martin Luther King. So this memorial is in memory of Martin Luther King. So let's go back to the picture. This right here is a memorial. So it's a statue or something that we use to remember all of the great things Martin Luther King did. In the word memorial, you might notice that the word memorial sounds a lot like the word memory. That's exactly right. So it's something that is built so that we can remember or have a memory of someone who was really important. And Martin Luther King Jr. was a really important person in our country. Let's answer these questions, friends. Who was Dr. King and why do we remember him? All right, let's use some schema for these answers. Friends, I want you to pause your video and tell me who was Dr. King and why do we remember him? Go ahead and pause your video and answer those questions now. Okay, I'm using my schema for this one. I know that Dr. King was someone who fought for equality. He fought for, and remember, there was a time when white people used to have Black people, used to own Black people as slaves. We talked about this in our class as well. And Dr. King wanted to make sure that even though these terrible, terrible things were happening, he wanted to make sure that Black people and white people had the same opportunities. He didn't like that white people had things more than Black people. And that's exactly right. It's not okay that that happened. So why do we remember him? We remember him because he marched for equality and he wanted to make a difference. Was there someone that we read about yesterday who also wanted to make a difference and wanted equality? Yes, you might remember yesterday we read about Rosa Parks, and she also wanted to make a difference, and she also fought for equality on the bus. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. What were the laws like in the South? What were the laws like in the South when Dr. King was growing up? Pause your video and answer that question now. In the story, I read that many laws in the South were not fair to Black people. So that makes me think that the laws were unfair and people didn't like them. I used my text evidence, friends, to read that the laws were unfair. And that makes me think when laws are unfair, when people are treated unfairly, that people get upset or get mad about them. That's exactly right. People were not happy that the laws were unfair to Black people and white people. Very nice job. How were Black people and white people separated? How were Black people and white people separated? Pause your video and answer that question now. In the story, I read that laws kept them separated. That means that they weren't allowed, Black people and white people weren't allowed to do some of the same things. For example, Black people and white people couldn't drink from the same water fountain. So in this picture, you see the white man up here who's drinking on this side of the water fountain, and the Black man here who's drinking on this side of the water fountain. So the law said that they couldn't even drink out of the same water fountain. In the story, I also read that white children and Black children went to different schools. So imagine going to a school where there is no other white people or no other Black people. There's either white kids on this side or Black kids on this side. That's how schools were. I also read in the text that Black people had to sit at the backs of city buses. Ooh, you should be showing connection because we learned about this yesterday. Very nice. Who stood up for, who did not agree with this law? Who did not agree with the law that Black people had to sit at the back of city buses? Pause your video and answer that question now. Yes, Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks refused to sit at the back of the bus, refused to sit at the back of the bus. She sat at the front of the bus, even though in the story I see that the front seats were for white people. Now, another question, did what Rosa Parks did it work? Did Rosa Parks' actions work when she stood up for what she believed was right with the buses? Yes or no? Did it work? Yes, because we read in the book yesterday that the laws were changed because Rosa Parks stood up to the law. I love that she did that. Really nice job. What did Dr. King want to change? What did Dr. King want to change? Pause your video and answer that question now. In the story I read that Dr. King wanted the unfair laws to change. He wanted to change the laws that said that white people and Black people couldn't go to school together. He wanted to change the laws that said that white people and Black people couldn't go to the same movie theater or drink out of the same water fountain or even walk in the same doors. He did not think that that was fair. Show connection if you agree with Martin Luther King. That's exactly right. He knew that it wasn't fair, and so he wanted to stand up and talk to people about how it wasn't fair. Wow. I want to pause here, and I want you to think, how would you describe Martin Luther King Jr. on this page? How would you describe him? He wanted laws to change, and he wanted to make a difference. How would you describe someone who is like that? Let's think about our character traits. Pause your video and answer that question now. He was brave, or he showed endurance, or he was hardworking. Yes, exactly. It takes a lot of bravery for someone to stand up and say, I don't agree with this law. That is a lot of bravery. And when we learned about Martin Luther King in January, we also talked about how Martin Luther King Jr. is brave, just like all of you are brave. That is one of our core values in school, and you all know how to show bravery. And Martin Luther King Jr. is definitely showing bravery by standing up to make a difference. Awesome job. Let's go ahead and keep going. What did Martin Luther King want to use to make changes? What did he want to use to make changes? Pause your video and answer that question now. In the story, I read that he wanted to use peaceful ways to make changes. He wanted things to be peaceful. That means he didn't want fighting. He didn't want violence. He didn't want people to be mean to each other. No, no, no. He wanted marches, peaceful marches. He wanted conversations. He wanted people to talk. He didn't want fighting and he didn't want violence. My next question is, why did he think that it should be peaceful? Why did he want to make changes in a peaceful way? Pause your video and answer that question now. In the story, I read that he said there was already too much hate in the world. So that makes me think that Martin Luther King thought there was already enough bad things in the world. So he wanted to be peaceful so he could bring some good things in the world, maybe even bring along some love. He didn't want people to be mean to each other or fight or hurt each other because that's not a kind thing to do and that doesn't show love. Nice job. What did Dr. King and many people do? What did Dr. King get many people to do? Pause your video and answer that question now. In the story, I read that they marched. They marched to say no to the unfair laws. They marched to say, we don't like your laws and we're not going to listen to your laws. Very nice job. Why did they march? Why did they march? Pause your video and answer that question now. In this story, I read that he worked with many people to get the laws changed. So they marched and they spoke out because they wanted to change the laws that were unequal to white people and Black people. Nice job, my friends. What were the new laws like? What were the new laws like? Pause your video and answer that question now. In the story, I read that the new laws were much fairer. That means they were more fair than before. It is now against the law to treat some people better than other people. So now, if all the white kids get to go to this school, all the Black kids get to go to this school, now it's against the law to treat the white people better. Now, every person has to be treated the exact same because that's what the law says. I like that. That's a really good start. Now, friends, I want you to look at this picture up here really quickly. This was the President of the United States at the time. His name was Lyndon Johnson. He was white. He was the President of the United States. And here's Martin Luther King Jr. And Martin Luther King Jr. got all the way up to the President of the United States. And he talked to the president about changing the laws so that Black people could have the same rights as white people. Wow, that is so much bravery and so much endurance from Martin Luther King Jr. I am so impressed. And I know that all of you have the same amount of bravery and endurance and hard work inside of you, just like he does. Nice job. Now, what were the schools like after the new laws? What were the schools like after the new laws? Pause your video and answer that question now. In the story, I read that Black children and white children can go to the same schools now. Wow, yay! Because if you couldn't, then I wouldn't be able to be your teacher and we wouldn't be able to have Great Lakes Academy. So I'm so thankful that those laws were changed because now I get to teach you and I love that so much. Also, the story in the text I read that people of every color can sit wherever they want on buses. And we know, let's look down here. We know that Rosa Parks is the person that helps change the laws on buses. So we're going to read the bottom blue box together because I want us to use some more schema and remember what we read about yesterday. So let's start with the words do you know. Get ready. Put your finger underneath the first word do. We're reading this box together. I want your voices on. On two. 1, 2. Do you know Rosa Parks would not sit at the back of a bus in 1955? Her courage helped change the unfair laws. Wow, so here we are again talking about courage and bravery. And that just shows that you have to have a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to say what you believe and to act on what you believe is right. Just like Rosa Parks did and just like Martin Luther King Jr. did. Let's go ahead and the last chapter, my favorite chapter. We learned a lot about the March on Washington when we talked about Martin Luther King Jr. in DePaul and in UC. So we're going to use some schema to answer some questions about this. Nice job. Okay. What did Dr. King want? What did Dr. King want? Pause your video and answer that question now. In the story, I read that he wanted all people to be free, and he wanted the laws to be fair for everyone. He wanted everyone to be free. That means he did not want white people to own Black people, and he wanted everyone to have freedom to do whatever they wanted. And he also wanted the laws to be fair. Yes, he did. He also dreamed that people of every color would get along. So he dreamed that white people and brown people would still love each other so much. The same way that we love each other now. That's what he wanted way back in the day. That's why he gave a speech that said, I have a dream that one day Black people and white people will get along. That's a really good dream to have. Some of you even wrote that for your dreams, which I love. All right, let's go ahead to the next page. Really nice job. What do we remember about Dr. King? What do we remember about Dr. King? We also learned, sorry friends, before you answer that question, you might remember that we also learned that somebody unfortunately and very sadly killed Dr. King. And so he didn't get to finish what he started. He didn't get to keep living and keep changing the world. And so we remember him because he did so many great things. So why do we remember Dr. King? Why is it important that we remember his work? I want you to pause your video and think about that question now. In the story I read, that we remember his dream of fair laws and free people. We remember that he had a dream that everyone would be treated the same no matter the color of their skin. Yes, we do remember that. Really nice job. I also would like us to read this blue box up here near the picture underneath his memorial in Washington, D.C. So you can actually go to this memorial in Washington, D.C. and see the statue of Martin Luther King. Ms. Rossi has been here, and it is so awesome to see and to remember all the things that Martin Luther King Jr. did. We're going to read this box. This is one of my favorite quotes. Let's go ahead and read this box all together. On two, 1, 2. If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. Yeah, so what Dr. King is saying is maybe you can't stand up to the law because maybe you're too young or you don't know how to stand up for it. But it's really important that all of us do small things that help our world be better. For example, you could treat everyone that you meet with kindness and with love, no matter what they look like or what color their skin is. So that is something that Martin Luther King Jr. would like and would support. He would say, yes, you should treat everybody you meet, no matter if they're white, brown, black, blue, purple, green. You should treat them all with love and respect and kindness, because that is how we make the world a better place. And that's just a little small thing that you can do, is always love the people that you meet. Awesome job. And then we have our glossary. Very nice job, my friends. Okay, my last question, my challenge question, my push question is this. Why do you think Dr. King is so important to our world today? Why is Dr. King so important to our world today? Pause your video and answer that question now. Okay, friends, this is a really important question, and I want you to listen to Ms. Rossi's answer, and then I also want, in our phone call today, I want to hear some of your answers, okay? Dr. King is so important because in the United States of America, even today, we are still fighting for equality. We are still fighting for. Yeah, that means that even though there are laws that say that Black people and white people should be equal, it's not always the case, friends. A lot of times, white people still have an advantage, or they still have more than Black people have. And it's not okay, and it's sad. And so we remember Martin Luther King Jr., and we know that he is important because we are still fighting his fight. We are still trying to do what Martin Luther King wanted, and we are still trying to make sure that Black people and white people are equal. We are still trying to make sure that everybody is free and everybody loves each other. So that's why it is so important to know what Martin Luther King Jr. fought for, because we are still fighting for that today, friends. And you can continue to help what Martin Luther King Jr. wanted by being kind to everyone you love and sharing your thoughts. If you have any thoughts, of course, your voice is important, and it is important to your parents and your guardians, and it is important to your teachers, okay? So Martin Luther King Jr. was so important because he showed us that white people and Black people deserve to be equal. We deserve equality, and everybody deserves the same thing. That was a really juicy second grade question, and I'm sure you guys did such a great job on that. I am so incredibly proud of you. Friends, sometimes when we read books about this kind of stuff, it can be a little bit hard, and it might be hard for us to understand everything that's going on, and that is okay, because you are still learning, just like me and just like everybody else in the world. We are all still learning about this and about how to make Black people and white people equal. I want you to know that you are all doing an excellent job. I am so proud of your hard work. And remember, we only have about 7 or 8 more days until you are second graders. Oh, Miss Rossi's going to cry. I'm so proud of you. I love you so much, and I can't wait to see you again soon. Bye, friends.